First, I would like to thank you, Carl, for this very kind invitation, and I thank also the organizing committee. So I'm very happy and very honored to be here to give a talk at this very prestigious conference, and also, I believe, very important conference for Morocco and for international community. At the moment in my lab, we are putting a lot of effort to develop greener and more sustainable technologies for the energy storage. Okay, I need that. That's better. Thank you. So,
I think you have to put something.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't see it was not. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So for greener and sustainable technologies for energy, so for the next generation of energy storage devices. And today I will show you two examples. One example dealing with large-scale applications, and another example dealing with high-power applications. And I will show you that in these technologies we are developing, there is no transition metal. As you know, it's very important, as you know, that transition metals are coming from polluting, dirty mining operations. Okay? So this is the outline of my talk, very simple. First part, I will show you our ongoing work on aqueous organic batteries for large-scale storage. And in the second part, I will show you our new pre-lithiation strategy that at the moment we use for high-power storage devices, but it can be also used to pre-lithiate silicon negative electrodes. And Carl has shown in his talk previously that it's very important for silicon to have a way how to pre-lithiate it. Okay, so let me start by a short presentation of our lab. So it's one of the 5 labs of the Institute for Materials in Nantes, IMN. It's called the Energy Storage Lab. We gather research on high-temperature fuel cells, supercapacitors, and batteries. And at the moment, we have about 45 scientists when we count staff researchers, PhDs, and postdocs. I would like also to start thanking my very close co-workers for this work. So Joël Gobichet, who is a PI for the 2 projects I will show you today. Philippe Poiseau, co-PI, and Sophia, PhD, BHAG, postdoc. And I thank also some funding agencies, some industrial companies. My part 1. So I really believe that aqueous technologies are really a good choice for the large-scale storage of renewable energies for 2 main reasons. They are very cheap and they are intrinsically safe because water is not flammable. Okay? And when you look at the literature, you can see that several positive or negative electrode materials have been selected to make metal-ion aqueous batteries with good properties, good performance. And when you look at all these materials, you can see that, of course, there are inorganic materials. All materials which are developed for present batteries are inorganic materials based on transition metals. But as you know, transition metals are coming from scarce fossil resources. Some of them are very costly, and generally they are difficult to recycle. You need high temperature processes, energy greedy processes to recycle. So that's the reason why we are working on organic batteries. So organic materials for batteries are made from very abundant elements in nature. They are greener because these organic materials are available from the biomass. They are synthesized by plants. So they are greener. Organic batteries should be greener and renewable. Also, after the use of these organic materials in a battery, after the end of life of the battery, it's quite easy to recycle these materials by low temperature combustion techniques. And the CO2 which is released will be absorbed again by plants photosynthesis. So, of course, this is theoretical, but you can see that this closes CO2 loop, and we can say that the CO2 cycle has a virtuous carbon footprint. Okay, so in short, I will say that organic batteries should be renewable, sustainable, recyclable. And this concept has been proposed by Poiseau more than 10 years ago in a paper published in ChemSysChem. Okay, so about 5 years ago, we applied for a project called Green Hope, in which we told that we wanted to develop cheap, full organic aqueous batteries using only neutral salted water as an electrolyte to have something cheap and no corrosion issues. And we also decided not to use lithium ions, but instead to use sodium or magnesium ions in the system because of larger availability and then probably maybe less cost speculations in the future. Okay, so our targets in terms of values are less than $100 per kilowatt hour of final full cells. Also, in terms of energy, 50 watt-hour per kilogram of prototype cell, about 1 volt or more output voltage, more than 5,000 cycles. Very important. So it means at the electrode level, we need to have high areal capacity electrodes, more than 5 milliampere per centimeter square, and this means millimeter thick electrode, which is very difficult to achieve. Of course, it's easier to achieve in an aqueous electrolyte, which is more conductive than non-aqueous, but still very difficult to achieve. And at the material level, we need more than 100 milliampere per gram for very low-cost materials. So for the negative electrode first, we have decided to design very original structures of organic materials. And this is one material we have designed, synthesized, and developed. It's made with two different organic functions. In the middle of the molecule, we have naphthalene diimide, NDI, in red. And at the end of the molecules, we put viologen in blue. So NDI is of N-type, then it can exchange cations. Viologen is of P-type, it can exchange anions. So for NDI, it exchanges cations. For viologen and P-type, it exchanges anions. So this molecule can uptake 3 electrons. It can be reduced with 3 electrons, giving this intermediate state, which is the radical state. And it can accept 3 electrons more to reach the final theoretically possible state, which corresponds to neutral viologen and the anionic NDI part. So the theoretical capacity here is 130 milliamperes per gram. So we have also developed longer oligomers. I will tell you why later. And at the moment, so in these longer oligomers, we use 4 NDI units. So one of the reasons is it gives higher capacity by 30%. We have done some operando characterization of what happens during the one full charge, discharge, first discharge charge cycle, and to know the reaction mechanism. And here I show you some results of operando UV visible spectroelectrochemistry. So this technique allows to detect which species occur at which voltage. So I will only summarize shortly. What we find is that at the beginning of the reduction, we reduce the NDI part, then we reduce the viologen part, and at the end, we put a second electron on the NDI part. So we call that an intermixed N and P-type behavior. We have also done operando EQCM experiments, electrochemical quartz crystal microbalance experiments. And they show that when we have the Viologen reactivity, which is of p-type, we show some mass change corresponding to hydrated perchlorate anions. So, and we have also done operando synchrotron XRD. I will not go into the details, but in the magnesium-based electrolyte, we can see that we have magnesium insertion. In a sodium-based electrolyte, we have sodium insertion. So, to summarize very shortly these operando experiments, we find that during the reactivity of these molecules with both N and P-type units, we have both cations and anions which move to compensate the charge. So this is what we expected. So we have done some long-term cycling. For the small oligomer, we have some slight solubility issues, so low cyclability. That's the reason why we developed the longer oligomer, which is strictly non-soluble. And with this longer oligomer, we could achieve more than 7,000 cycles in different conditions, for instance, different end of discharge voltage, different cycling rates. And you can see that here we are using very fast cycling rates. These molecules, they allow very, very high rate. So we cycle between 4C rate and 32C, which means 2 minutes per charge or discharge. This is very fast material. So we have taken some ocean water from Atlantic Ocean, not far from our town of Nantes, and we have cycled these materials in non-purified ocean water just for fun, just to see. And we find also that we have good cyclability, several thousands of cycles in different conditions. I will not go into the details. And that's quite interesting because ocean water can be seen as a safe and clean and cheap electrolyte. Okay. So at the level, we have achieved some of our targets, for instance, good cyclability, and in addition, we have high rate capability. So for the positive electrode, we have looked at tempo organic molecules. Tempo-based polymers have been proposed by Nishide as a positive electrode for aqueous batteries, and in our case, we focus on non-polymeric materials. We focus on small organic crystallized materials. So we have tried many different molecules, and we find that this one gives the best result. And it gives the best result, for instance, for thick electrodes. Here we have 80 milligram per centimeter square, very thick electrode, more than 1 millimeter thick. You can see that we have good cyclability, and at 500 cycles, we still have more than 5 milliampere hour per centimeter square. This is what we expected. So we have coupled the two materials, so the long oligomer, which is N and P type, with this tempo molecular crystallized material, which is of P type. So of course we have a special reaction mechanism, and which is both dual ion and ion-ionic rocking chair. Of course, because you can see that we transport anion from one electrode to the other one, so this is called anionic rocking chair mechanism. But also we consume anions and cations from the electrolyte during the charge, and they are reversibly released during the discharge. So this is called dual ion mechanism. So quite special mechanism, it's quite original. So we have done some coin cells, glass cell experiments for full cells, coin cells, and also pouch cells. And here I show you that with pouch cell we can cycle several hundred of cycles. We get 1 volt output voltage, and for thick electrodes of 5 milliampere hour per centimeter square. So here it's only a summary of a lot of results, of course. So these correspond to our target. And thanks to these results, we have fabricated in the lab some pouch cells with 8 mAh per centimeter square, and we have fabricated such a demonstrator where we charge our pouch cells with dye solar cells made at the organic chemistry lab next door. So all this system is a full organic device. Everything is organic. Okay, so let me summarize where I am. Let me conclude for this part. So we have developed full aqueous organic batteries making pouch cells. They use neutral salted water, sodium or magnesium salt. We could go from the design of new kinds of materials to a demonstrator, so we are very happy about that. We get 36 watt-hour per kilogram of both materials in the cell. And of course, we need to compare this data to already published data. So here I put all the data published in neutral aqueous electrolyte, gathering all organic batteries, also inorganic electrode materials, and also hybrid system, organic on one side, inorganic on the other side. So you can see that our result scales compare quite well with most of the other results published. So our next, so what we are doing now is we are working on the generation 2, for which we are using positive and negative with more initial capacity. So I'm coming to the second part of my talk now, dealing with a new pre-lithiation strategy that we have developed for the moment for high-power lithium-ion capacitors. So why doing pre-lithiation? Of course, to get more energy. So I summarize that here. Here is a symmetric electrochemical double layer capacitor. When we go to a lithium-ion capacitor, we have more energy. And when we go to a pre-lithiated lithium-ion capacitor, we have even more energy. So let me give some reminder for the students who are here. In a symmetric electrochemical capacitor, the two electrodes are activated carbons, and we have storage of electrostatic charge. This in the electrochemical double layer. So these systems provide very high power but low energy. So of course, you need to increase the energy. And to increase the energy, lithium-ion capacitors use the negative electrode of a lithium-ion battery, so mainly graphite or a disordered carbon. So in this case, we have Faradic storage in the negative and still electrostatic storage in the positive. And the two electrodes of these systems are fabricated with no lithium content initially. So in fact, to increase the performance, you need to pre-lithiate the negative electrode to provide lithium in the structure of the negative electrode and to build the SEI layer. And in this case, you can obtain more energy, but also better power and longer durability. Okay, so this is a short summary. And now, for pre-lithiation, now three main techniques are developed. One technique is to pre-lithiate the negative electrode previously to the cell assembly. It makes one extra fabrication step. There is another technique which consists in adding an auxiliary lithium metal electrode in the lithium-ion capacitor. And this is already commercialized by GM Energy, a Japanese company. So that's quite interesting. And the other technique which is most studied at the moment, and Carl has given some example, is to use some lithiated additive that you put in the composition of the positive electrode. And this, upon the first charge of the cell, you will have this additive will provide irreversibly electrons and lithium ions to the negative electrode. But none of these different techniques is satisfactory. There are still some issues such as cost, complex design, dead mass, and poor conductivity of the lithium additive. And side reactions are different levels. And our analysis was the following. It is very difficult to find one single additive for pre-lithiation which gathers all the needed requirements. To summarize, to be cheap, to minimize the dead mass in the positive electrode, and to have no side reaction during the electrode processing, no side reaction on cycling. So that's the reason why we propose a new pre-lithiation strategy in order to decouple the two irreversible sources of electrons and lithium ions, and we use two additives. So one additive is an electron donor. It has to provide electrons irreversibly during the first charge of the cell, and the other additive is lithium-ion donor additive, and it could be chosen non-electroactive. So using two additives provides more flexibility, more versatility. Of course, it's quite difficult to choose which additive. So in fact, in our previous work in our lab, a few years ago, we have used pyrene-based molecules to do some surface grafting modification of some materials. And here I show two examples of molecules we have developed. And these works have been published in 4 papers from 2012 to 2017. And from this work, we have learned the following. We have learned that the electropolymerization of the pyrene molecule, of course, provides some electrons irreversibly. This is what we want. And we obtain this kind of oligomer, which can be speed up with the second reaction shown here, which is a p-type reaction providing additional reversible capacity by uptake or release of anions. And this reaction is very important for what we want to do, because this extra reversible capacity can be used to compensate for the dead mass of the lithiated additive in the positive electrode composition. But you can see that the first irreversible electropolymerization of pyrene releases some protons. So this can be a problem. And we took advantage of this proton release to design a lithium-ion donor additive, which is a proton scavenger. And the easier, the better. So we propose to use very simply Li3PO4, which is a base with a large lithium content. And this base has an acidity constant pKa, which is very high. So it should capture efficiently the protons from these reactions and to release lithium ions with this very simple acid-base reaction. Okay, so to summarize, we are using pyrene as an electron donor additive. We are using lithium phosphate as a lithium-ion additive, and we expect to have a cascade type mechanism. I mean, as soon as the protons will be released by the oxidation of pyrene, they should be captured by this acid-base reaction, which will release lithium ions. So this is what we expect. So for the positive electrode, we have used a mesoporous activated carbon, which is very classical for lithium-ion capacitors. Okay, nothing special. For the electrode composition we add some PVDF, 5% weight percent. In our electrode with the two additives, we use 9% weight pyrene and 7 weight percent lithium phosphate. And we have used a third electrode with only pyrene to see, to compare. Okay, I'm looking at the time. Okay, so you can see in half-safe studies versus lithium metal, you can see that during the first charge in the electrode with only pyrene, we have extra irreversible capacity. This is what we expect. But during the subsequent discharge on subsequent cycles, we do not have more capacity. On the contrary, when we use both pyrene and lithium phosphate in the activated carbon electrode composition, we have more irreversible capacity, more electrons. This is what we want. That's a good result. And in addition, we have larger reversible capacity at further cycles. So this is coming from the second reaction, which provides reversible electrons. And this second reaction provides 13% capacity increase, which compensate for the 16 weight% of additives that we put as dead mass in the electrode. So we have done some different kind of experiments. I'm looking at the time. From Operando XRD in electrodes with the two additives, you can see that the diffraction lines of Li3PO4 they disappear exactly at first charge, they disappear exactly at 4 volts. And 4 volts is exactly the voltage at which pyrene begins to oxidize. So this is a very nice demonstration of the cascade reaction mechanism. As soon as protons are released, they are consumed and Li3PO4 disappears. We have done also Raman studies. In pristine electrodes with the two additives, we can see a vibration signal characteristic of Li3PO4. And in cycled electrodes, we do not have anymore this signal. It means confirmation that Li3PO4 is consumed after first charge. I've done also liquid NMR with the only pyrene electrode. After a few cycles, we find these signals for phosphorus and fluorine NMR, and these signals correspond to the hydrolysis product of PF6, which has reacted with HF. And in fact, when we add the Li3PO4 in the electrode composition after cycling, we do not have these signals. This means we do not have protons in the cell. So this confirms the proton scavenging properties of Li3PO4. So we have made full cells. For the full cells, we have used carbon super P. I go fast here. Okay, I need to tell, this is a very good model electrode because it has a huge irreversible capacity at first cycle, almost 200%. So we will see how our system for pre-lithiation is efficient. So full cells show activated carbon in the positive electrode with or not with the two additives, and carbon super P in the negative. So here is at cycle 50. You can see that at cycle 50 we still have almost double capacity for the system containing the two additives in the positive electrode compared to only activated carbon in the positive electrode. We have done also long-term cycling, and we find that we get constant capacity over several thousand of cycles, and we get Coulombic efficiency close to 100%. So this shows that the robustness and the efficiency of our new concept. Okay, so to compare our results with other data, so we obtain an energy of 60 watt-hour per kilogram of the two electrodes, and we compare other data in the literature, and you can see that we are in the same range. And okay, so to conclude this second part of my talk, I will say that we have proposed a new concept for pre-lithiation that uses two irreversible sources for lithium ions and electrons. And this technology is green. It doesn't use any transition metal. So that's interesting. The perspectives are that we can transpose our concept to other kind of metal-ion batteries, for instance, potassium-ion capacitors, and also other kind of lithium-ion batteries or metal-ion batteries, for instance, containing silicon in the negative electrode. Okay, I will stop here. Okay, another point is that maybe our phosphate additive could be an application for Moroccan phosphate. We never know. Okay. So let me stop here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.